Hello, I'm Jane Houghton and I work for Natural England on green infrastructure. I'm going to introduce you to Natural England's Green Infrastructure Mapping database, and this helps to identify gaps in green infrastructure, or GI, in your local area, and it starts to consider some of the causes and potential interventions. In this video, I'll give a snapshot of 4 data sets that are recommended to use when you're completing the Nature Towns and Cities self-evaluation tool. There are, of course, a whole range of data layers that you might find helpful to explore. But we'll start by searching for your place. I'm going to put in Manchester, and you can type in the name or a postcode. I'll choose Central Manchester. And you can zoom in or out using the plus or minus buttons. First, we're going to look at green and blue infrastructure asset maps. And the first layer, toggle that on, shows a whole range of different kinds of GI that are colour coded. So public parks are in mauve, woodland in green, and for a detailed description of the types, go to the mapping guide, section 3. So next we're going to go down to the all GI assets that are thought to be publicly accessible. And the first question, these are shown in bright green, the first question in the self-assessment tool asks where the gaps are in accessible green space in your local area. And to help with this, I'm going to untoggle the first layer and go down to theme 2, access to green space standards assessment for England. And here we can use the toggles to map your accessible green spaces against the 6 access standards identified by Natural England in the GI framework. So we'll toggle on the accessible green space standard for very small local green spaces. I'm going to reduce the opacity so that you can see the accessible green space. So everyone living in this buffer zone is considered to have access to that particular standard. And if you click on the eye, this will give you a definition of that standard. And the standards increase from very small local green spaces to sub-regional, which are much larger green spaces at more distant locations. So we'll click these all on, and you can see that the buffers are gradually building up there. And if we zoom out, you'll see the pattern of provision across a wider area and where the gaps are. I'm now going to reset the layers and look under theme 1 at the greenness grid. So this shows you the percentage of man-made surfaces, so land that is not vegetation, water or soils, and it's measured using a 250 metres square in a grid across England. And we suggest looking at this layer because it's a very simple measure of green cover, and it gives you an approximate indicator of the level of likely benefits from GI. So, higher levels of benefits from GI where there's a low percentage of man-made surface, and vice versa for high levels of man-made surface. So let's reset again, and we'll scroll down to theme 5, blue infrastructure, and look at flood risk from rivers and seas, which is here. So GI can be designed to help reduce the risk of flooding from rivers and the sea and from heavy rainfall. And this map, which shows the level of flood risk from rivers and seas, shows the high level of risk, red areas, and very low level, the pale yellow areas. The second flood risk map shows flooding risk from surface water or from heavy rainfall, and that's shown in pale blue. So it's useful when designing green infrastructure to seek advice from sustainable drainage teams on how GI can help to reduce the risk of flooding. And finally, the Nature, Towns and Cities self-evaluation tool looks at urban heat and asks you to consider the heat management needs for your area. So going down to layer 13, urban heat management, there are three maps here. We're going to look at this one first. So this shows the cooling, level of heat mitigation or cooling that's likely to be provided by the existing GI on a 250 metre grid basis. And the higher the index number, so here down the dark blue, the more mitigation or cooling is likely to be being provided. And if we zoom out, we can see that that's in the more rural areas by comparison with the central city area. So the red areas have lower levels of cooling being produced. So if we look at the two maps above, and we'll start with need. This map is based on the heat mitigation or cooling required due to climatic factors and social vulnerability, so medical needs and age demographics. And the darker the colour, the greater the need for GI and its cooling effect in heat waves. And you can see that central Manchester has higher need than surrounding areas. But you can also explore the existing provision. And again, the scores show that pale colours are lower levels of provision by comparison with higher levels of provision are dark. And you can click on individual areas, so just to choose anyone from central Manchester. And this shows the level of need for cooling, the current cooling provision, and an average cooling value, and that's explained in the mapping guide. So that's a snapshot of the databases within the mapping tool that we recommend considering as part of the Nature, Towns and Cities self-evaluation tool. And to find this GI mapping database, visit Natural England's Green Infrastructure Framework website or link from Nature, Towns and Cities self-evaluation tool. And for more support and information, please go to the mapping guide on the top right, and in particular, I think you'll find it useful to look at the how to use the map section. Good luck and many thanks for listening.